Oh, I didn't see you there. Welcome to LB274 Mythbusters. I'm Craig, and today we're going to talk all about lasers. So for today's myth, we're going to be talking about lasers, as I said. And so for your average businessman who is going on his cross-continental flight across the United States, and he is going over Alaska, and his plane crashes due to inclement weather, and all he has in his bag is a cheap 5 milliwatt laser. And we're going to see if this businessman can start fire in the wild with one of these lasers.
So in this experiment, we were talking all about lasers, otherwise known as light amplification by stimulated emission of radiation.
A laser describes any device that creates an amplified, narrow focused beam of light whose photons are coherent. In a laser, the atoms or molecules of lasing medium, either a crystal-like or ruby or garnet, or a gas or liquid, are pumped so that more of them are at higher energy levels than at ground state. The end result is a sudden burst of coherent light as the atoms discharge in a rapid chain of reaction. This process is called stimulated emission. Albert Einstein first introduced the possibility of stimulated emission in the 1917 paper discussing the interplay of matter and radiation, and how the two could achieve thermal equilibrium. Einstein postulated that photons prefer to travel together in the same state. Therefore, if one has a large collection of atoms containing a great deal of excess energy, they will be ready to emit a photon randomly. However, if a stray photon of the correct wavelength passes by, or in the case of a laser, is fired at an atom in an excited state, its presence will stimulate the atoms to release their photons early, and those photons will travel in the same direction with the identical frequency and phase as the original stray photon. So since the atoms are stimulated to release their photons, these photons will travel in the same direction with the identical frequency and phase as the original stray photon. As the crowd of identical photons moves through the rest of the atoms, more photons will be emitted from their atoms to join them. It was also proposed that if the laser was to be fitted with a pair of mirrors, one at each end of the laser, photons of a specific wavelength would then reflect off the mirrors and travel back and forth through the lasing medium. By doing so, they would in turn cause the other electrons to relax back to their ground states, emitting even more photons in the same wavelength. So, only photons in the selected wavelength and frequency range would be amplified.
So in our hypothetical situation where our businessman gets stranded in the woods with nothing but, basically his supplies, he has nothing but paper and a typical 5 milliwatt red laser pointer. So we're going to see how this ends up working against regular white paper.
So the businessman is outside in the wilderness. It's getting pretty chilly. It's about nighttime, and we're going to see if we can start a fire with this white paper. And I'm going to hold it here for about a minute, and we're going to see if it gets any ignition at all. And then as the best place for the laser pointer to be is pretty close to the paper. It's already focused, so it doesn't really matter that much, but I'm going to keep it right here for about a minute, see if we get any ignition. So that clearly did not work. The red laser pointer did not ignite the paper. But in this scenario, we're going to say we have a more professional businessman that has a blue laser pointer, so smaller wavelength, higher energy. We're going to see if we can get this paper to ignite with this blue one. Okay, so we're 0 for 2. Neither of these laser pointers worked on regular white paper. we got no ignition. So now what we're going to assume is that this businessman is pretty savvy, and he knows that he's got a Sharpie here, and since the paper is white, it doesn't absorb as much light. So he colors a little black dot, see if he can absorb a lot more light, and hopefully get a fire. So we're going to go back to our red 5 milliwatt laser pointer and see if we get any ignition. So that did not work, but we're going to go back to our more experienced businessman with the blue laser pointer, more energy laser pointer, and see if we get anything this time.
Alright, so our businessman now is very technologically savvy, and he has a 60 milliwatt green laser. So we are going to see if this laser lights the paper on fire with the black spot. Because this is 60 milliwatts, it has a lot more energy. So we're going to see if it lights on fire.
So after all of our trials, we did not get any ignition yet. So we decided to really ramp things up. So now we still have our super savvy businessman with our 60 milliwatt green laser pointer. But now he likes to roll his own cigarettes. So we have some rolling paper that are colored black. This is more combustible than paper is. So we're gonna see if we can get anything going on here. So let's see what we get. So as you can see that there, it burned a little hole in there. So it's powerful enough to burn through it, but we didn't get any combustion. So we deem this myth as plausible.